Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Hollywood Swingin with myself, your co-host, Stephen Bishop, and my always debonair and dapper co-host, Jerry Hairston Jr., a.k.a. the J. Hay Kid, a.k.a. the Denzel Doppelganger, a.k.a. the Legacy. Jerry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. You know, that intro never gets old. I know the Denzel thing may shake some people, but again, it's not me saying it. It's just when I'm around town in L.A., you know, it could be a person 98 years old squinting. Is that Denzel? No. I'm Jerry. But again, it's not me saying it. It's just the older people in L.A. for some reason think I look like Denzel. I don't think so.
Well, hey, you know, everybody gets their doppelgangers, and perhaps if you look closely and squint, you're Denzel's doppelganger, and he yours. But let's talk about something else right now, Jerry. This is all the theme of today's show is this right here. Let me show you. That's it. That's it. Can you see that?
I can see it very well. Oh yeah.
Okay. Bah, the GOAT. A GOAT, right? So our guest today needs no introduction. Absolutely no introduction whatsoever. However, since the introduction is so freaking impressive, I'm going to do it anyway, Jerry.
Go ahead.
Our guest today is a 22-year Major League veteran, a 14-time All-Star, a 7-time MVP. Only one other man in the history of the Big Four in American sports has won more MVPs, and that's the great one, Wayne Gretzky, in hockey. A 8-time Gold Glove winner, a 12-time Silver Slugger Award winner, a 2-time batting champion, and the only man in the history of baseball to have 500 home runs and 500 steals. Okay, and now we're not even going to talk about his college career at Arizona State, where he was an All-American and voted to the all-time College World Series team. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, the GOAT, the best player to ever put spikes in baseball, Mr. Barry Bonds. Barry, how you doing today?
It was long.
It was long, right?
Yeah, it's long. I don't even remember all that.
And I didn't even get into the major league record home runs, 762, the major league record for a single season, 73 home runs, the major league record, 2,558 career walks, the 609 on base percentage for a single season, the 863 slugging percentage for a single season. These are major league records. It's incredible.
I'm just glad we had him muted when you called me the Denzel Washington doppelganger because Barry almost fell out in his chair because I saw him. But yeah, those numbers are impressive. Incredible career, Barry.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. That's funny.
Now listen, Stephen, I got a chance to play against the greats. I played in the late 90s, and my last year was 2013. So I played against Mike Trout. I played against Ken Griffey Jr. I played against Clayton Kershaw, Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson. So I've played in the older era, and I played in the new era where the stars are the stars. But again, the best players that my eyes have ever seen, two guys, and I think Barry would agree with me, is Barry Bonds and Ken Griffey Jr. They had not only a presence or an aura about them, they had the substance to back it up. And Barry Bonds, without question, and I'm not knocking Albert Pujols, I'm not knocking Manny Ramirez, Ted Williams. I'm not knocking them. They're incredible. But Barry was the only player that I ever played against on the field. Like he was like the high school kid, like a senior in high school playing against seventh graders. I'm not exaggerating. Every time he took the field, every time he stepped in the batter's box, he made us feel like we were seventh graders. And he got one pitch to hit in a series. I remember when I was with the Cubs. Barry was yelling at me. I was playing second base. We kept walking him. He gets to second base. He goes, Jay, you guys ever going to throw to me at all? I go, no, it ain't going to happen. Finally, Dusty gave him one pitch, that whole series, splash landing in San Diego. And I'm sitting there in San Francisco. He's rounding. I'm yelling at him. That's why we don't pitch to you. One pitch that series, he hit it 500 feet.
So when you have that kind of an acumen at a sport, Barry. Does it feel like you are the greatest every day that you walk out there? I remember once I asked you, why are you the best player in the game? And I'll tell people the answer you gave me later. But when you're out there, did it feel like you were a man playing amongst children? Or, I mean, how did it feel?
No, no, not at all. It's the competition. It's just a level of competition. Just playing the game at a certain level. I mean, I try to tell people all the time, I was very lucky to have my father and Willie Mays with me 24 hours a day. I help out a lot of kids and a lot of players today. And, I always explain to them that I was very lucky. I had two great instructors all the time. I didn't have to figure things out. They figured it out for me. I didn't have to really think about the things that most everyday players have to think about and have to try to figure it out on their own within their coaching staffs or whatever. And they may know more than their coaching staffs. They may know less. It doesn't matter. But I had what I feel were the best of the best. My dad and Willie. My father can pick apart any picture, anything. And all I had to do was just implement it. I just had to just put it. And then as I was maturing, because I always try to tell people, this is a process. This is a long process, and you mature every year and you find out things about yourself every year, and you'll get better. And if you don't, there's a problem. There's something missing. And so I've always also realized that, my off-season training was way more important than the season, because if you're trying to figure out things during the season, it's just too late. You should be fine-tuning things during the season more so than trying to figure things out during the season.
And that, Jerry, is is the answer to the question, why are you the best player in baseball? The answer he gave me when I was in his gym at his house in Murrieta, we were working out, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. I asked him that question. He said, because I work harder than everybody else. These guys take a couple of months off after the season's over, and they go on their vacations, and they do what they do. I take 2 weeks, and then I'm back at it. And I work as hard as I do to get ready for the next season as I do at any time of the year. And that was the answer that he gave me. And it makes a lot of sense if you stay doing it and you keep working, even with the talent that you were blessed with and the instruction that you were blessed with. You're bound to be at an advanced level all the time.
Well, if you want to keep up at that high level, guys, I mean, you're talking professional level with any sport. To keep up, you've got to always keep challenging yourself. You always have to keep working on your skill, because people can jump at any time, and the level could change at any time. And if you're not prepared for those changes, then, if you're taking time off, it's like, I got to get my arm ready again if I took 3 months off. I got to do this again, and you can lose things. So I kind of didn't want to ever lose that momentum. As I say, it's just that momentum of consistency and that momentum of learning and then maturing and then implementing it on the field.
Barry, you may not remember this. In 2004, I remember I was with the Orioles in 2004. San Francisco came to Baltimore. And I remember you working out early in our weight room. And I remember you having a conversation with David Segui, and I kind of piggybacked, kind of listening in. And I remember seeing how hard you worked before the game. I used to always kind of work out. I'd work out after the game, or I'd make sure I'd work. If I had an off day, I'd really get my workout in. You said you wanted to maintain your flexibility, your strength, even knowing you're going to get 4 or 5 at-bats and play left field. And I remember you having a conversation with David and myself. I was a young player then. You said, yes, the strength is great, but the way I prepare myself mentally, when I step up to the plate, right before I walk up to the plate, as I'm walking up to the plate, you say in your mind, I'm the best hitter in the world. I don't care if Frank Thomas is in Chicago. I don't care if Ken Griffey Jr. is in Seattle. Right now, as I'm walking up to the plate, I'm the best hitter in the world. And I stole that from you. I was hitting about $130 at that time. It was early in the season. And I ended up hitting 300 that year for the first time in my career at 303, because I said, you know what? I'm going to lie to myself. I'm better than Barry Bonds. I'm better than Ken Griffey Jr. at this moment. And just for you saying that, I go, I'm going to steal that from Barry. Now, obviously, I'm not Barry Bonds. I'm not Ken Griffey Jr. But if I can be that mentally, I give myself the best chance to succeed. And I just remember how powerful your mind was obviously, to go along with your skills.
Well, yeah, Jerry, what I meant by that is that I learned that from Tony Gwynn. I always go back to Tony Gwynn and he was one of my idols as well as so many others during the course. But I remember in San Diego with Tony Gwynn, and Tony always had his little secret hitting things where he would close the door where you really actually couldn't see what he was doing. And I happened to be standing outside that time at the door, and I'm looking through this little crack, and he's really just playing his game with himself, and he's got these cones in places, and he's playing this little hitting game with himself. And he's not, he's just using the tee, and he's just going through mechanical things. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he sat there and, he says, there's a yellow line here, there's a yellow line here. And there's a couple people that's already told me that too. And Tony said, Chase, and I always thought when I meant by being the best hitter out there, Tony Gwynn to me was the best hitter. My generation, Tony Gwynn was always winning the batting title. He was always hitting 300, close to 400. So the best hitter to me was Tony Gwynn. And I said, Tony sat there and told me one time, he said, Barry, chase the batting title. Everything else will come if you chase the batting title. And he was the best. He was the best player, best hitter, average-wise, et cetera, so on. Yeah, I can hit home runs, but I wasn't the best hitter. Tony Gwynn, to me, at the moment, was the actually best hitter. And that made sense to me. That resonated into my mind. Because, if you're going to get up 500 times, you're going to get up 500-600 plate appearances, chase the batting title. Chase that. And with your natural power and your ability, everything else falls into place. And a lot of times we chase the fence, and then that becomes, now we're hitting 200. We're chasing other things. So Tony said, don't be a 10% field hitter. Why not be a 70% field hitter? Because you can play line to line, but you can't be perfect line to line. So you play gap to gap, right? So that's about 70% of the field, right? And so anywhere between 70 and 60, whatever that percentage is of the field, and be good there. But you got to use it all, right? And I was, sometimes you got hitters that are just one-dimensional, just pull hitters, or they're just this. And I chased the batting title. I got it twice, but I never got it a lot. But I chased it. And chasing it was going to give me the 30, 40, 50 home runs. If I chase that, you're going to accidentally hit the balls over the fence. And it just made sense with me.
And it's crazy that you say that, because that means that all the batting titles that Tony Gwynn won, he was actually trying to win the batting title. It wasn't like he was after the batting title. And that's amazing that he did it
he irked
that many
me
times.
He irked me because I was going for a triple crown in 93. And he irked me because we were going at it back and forth. And then he had enough plate appearance and got hurt. And, I couldn't keep that pace up. I mean, when he was playing on the field, I had that motivation, like, oh, okay, Tony got a hit today. I got to get my hits, or I got to stay and I got to walk and I do something. But then when he got hurt and it was just me by myself and I went 0 for 2, I didn't have a margin to play with, right? Yeah. I didn't have anyone to play with, but just his average. And I was always bummed about that I didn't really actually get to go head on with him, but he's the best. He was the best hitter, period.
When you say, now that we're talking about chasing the batting title and Tony Gwynn, and you have a career 298 average, Tony's was above 300, and I want to know how you feel about the state of the union when it comes to hitting now. I feel as though I would bet money that over the last 10 years, across the board, from high school to the major leagues, the collective batting average has dropped. Because of this launch angle, chasing fly balls, get the ball in the air mentality. And the hitter is no longer chasing the batting title. How do you feel about the state of the union and the direction that hitting is going right now?
I don't blame players. I mean, you can't really blame players. Major League Baseball dictate what goes on, and the players just adapt. When in my generation, you don't hit close to 300, you ain't even in the major leagues. Yeah. I mean, you ain't getting in the major leagues hit 220 or 230, and that you're not making it. So the game has changed, and they've just adapted to the changes of the game, and that's what has excited the fans. Is it wrong? For me, it wouldn't work for me. personally. I want to hit 300. My generation is different. I mean, but if you told me I can hit 210 and hit 20 home runs and make $200 million, I'll hit 210 and make $200 million. These guys are making $200 million in 2-year players and 3-year players. And we had to go through free agency. So do I fault the players? No, the players are the ones who make the money for MLB and the owners. They deserve every penny they get. I get that. The only thing different of my time to this time is when I do get this question a lot. It's like, we always have the competition with players. Could you play in our generation? I'm like, yeah, I could play in your generation. Matter of fact, I'd kill your generation. They're like, all you pro players think that you can do this. Not that we think we can do it. We know we can do it. It's not a difference because, now there's so much on speed with the pitchers, and plus the pitchers don't last but 3 innings nowadays or whatever. But everyone in the bullpen or everyone in the pitching staff throws 95 miles an hour. So I don't have to adapt. My generation, you may have a specialist that throws a 64-mile-an-hour curveball, or, the changes of speeds are a lot different in my generation. And then you had a specialist or a closer that threw 100. Like I try to tell them, you don't think we had guys that throw 100 miles an hour? We have guys that throw 100 miles an hour too. No big deal. The harder you throw it, the further it goes. I don't really care. But if you all are going to throw 95 miles an hour and you all are going to be behind in the count, I'm going to beat you. I don't care who you are. Like, I'm 58 years old, and I don't care how hard you throw, I can still hit it. Now, can I hit it as far? No, I'm not in physical shape to do that. But can I hit the baseball? For sure. In this generation, is it a little bit easier? Sure. Why? Because you guys just take batting practice. Pretty much. Nobody gets hit. Nobody gets knocked down. If you tell me I can go up to the plate, swing a baseball bat, flip it into the stands, high five every single body up there, and not get my head taken off, I'm going to hit a home run almost every time up. Me, I had to get in the plate, hit a home run, and come up the next at bat, not even flip my bat or do anything, and know that I'm definitely still going to get hit, regardless. So I have to either stay in the box, learn how to dodge it, and swing a bat at the same time. It's just different. It's just a different era. Do I think a player should get hit because they flip their bats or whatever? No, I don't think a player should get hit. I mean, your chances of hitting home runs are still slim based on the amount of bats that you do get, and if a pitcher makes a mistake, eat it and move on. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to keep a hitter honest, and you also got to keep a pitcher honest. And the competitive edge of that, I enjoy that competition of, oh, you want to come up and in, son? Okay, we might have to throw down here for a minute, but let's just, but it's just a chess match. It's not really you're trying to hurt me or I'm trying to do whatever, but it's just that chess match of, I guess, focus and concentration that you have to put on yourself as a hitter, not knowing what the circumstances could be between you and that guy who technically has a weapon that can throw. I said, you guys take batting practice. So you want to be good, master BP, because that's all you got to do is master batting practice. And that's what I did.
It's crazy.
Barry, to add to that, they just did a study. In fact, guys aren't really throwing harder than they were when you played in the late 80s, 90s, because now they're measuring the ball out of the hand. Back when I played 10 years ago, when you played, they were measuring the fastball, at 10 feet from the plate as it's getting to the plate. So now, back then, if they were throwing 93 miles an hour, it would be measured at 98 miles an hour today because they're coming out of the hand. So even today, they're not throwing harder. But I completely agree with Barry is they're told the pitchers, hey, throw as hard as you can for 4 or 5 innings, and we're going to get you out of there. And then the next guy, you're going to throw 1 inning, throw as hard as you can. So there are more throwers now as opposed to pitchers. And you get a thrower out there facing Barry Bonds, he's going to be sitting 2-1, 2-0 a lot of times, and then game over.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun.
I'm sure it would be.
All right, I have to go. My headphones ran out of juice, guys, so I got to go with the regular speaker now. But, we're talking about guys that throw hard and Barry being able to hit them. There's no doubt about that. If you've seen 2 at-bats that I can call out right now, Barry can hit whatever you throw up there. The two I'm thinking about are the World Series at bat against my old college alma mater mate, Troy Percival, that went about 530 feet. And the other, possibly one of the most classic best at-bats of all time, against Eric Gagne, where he fouled ball off, 98 inside, fouled it off, and then he left one out there 99 miles an hour, and he drilled it to right center out there, probably 480. I mean, when you looked at the collage that ESPN put together the year that you hit those 73 home runs, every swing, whether it went to left field, center field, or right field, every swing looked almost identical. How did you get into such a groove where no matter where the ball was pitched, you were making a very, very similar pass at the ball, and the balance was so consistent, and the even the little jab step after you would hit the ball to whatever field was just almost identical? How did you get so locked in?
Practice. I mean, I don't really know how to answer that, because I really don't know how I did it. I just practice. I mean, practice, perfection, technique, learning balance points, knowing your body, understanding the physics of the game, understanding the velocity of a pitch, to understanding your swing path, to understanding if I make this path and the ball is at 62 miles an hour, the ball should technically only go so far on a perfect swing, technique-wise. If he throws it 80, same techniques, so the ball should travel a certain distance. Trying to maintain the same technique, regardless of what the speed is of the baseball, is very, very important, because the power of the pitcher is going to dictate it. What happens is that if that velocity lowers, you try to compress it. And once you try to compress it, the technique fails. And then that's when you're popping it up. I tell everyone, I did what Tony Gwynn did and so many other great hitters before me, Rod Carew, Pete Rose, who I think great hitters. You know, I tried to take pieces from everyone. I took a little bit from the 300 to 400 hitters to the home run hitters, and I was able to create this because I had the ability to. But I try to tell guys, master batting practice. You got a guy who sits out there at what, 60 feet, maybe 50 something feet away from you, throws about maybe maximum speed 73 miles an hour, maybe, that he's throwing, and he's telling you everything that's coming right to you every single time, and you're popping this up in the cage, or you're jamming yourself, or you're doing this. Technique is wrong. Master batting practice with a guy who's trying to make you good, and if you can't place that ball where you want to, then technique is failing. And once you can master that technique, then it becomes better. It's the same thing. I'll never forget Eric Davis. He cracks me. That's my boy. And don't forget, Percival and Gagne are awesome pitchers. And I have a lot of love for those two guys. Percival has a lot of guts, and so does Gagne. And in both those situations, they both said, if you hit it, you name it. They didn't back down. They didn't try to pitch around. They didn't do any of that stuff. And I knew Percival because I played against him all the time in spring training. Like we're both in Scottsdale, so we went up against each other all the time. And you know, they both also understand what the game doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to hit a run. Doesn't necessarily mean their job's to close the game. And in the situation, they had enough runs in the situation to where if I hit it out, it didn't really matter anyway. In theory, it didn't really matter. They still got the next guy out or whatever and won the game. But they weren't going to back down to the situation. They were like, okay, Barry, mano a mano. You want it? Here it comes. You can hit it, hit it. If you can't, sit your butt down. And I didn't have a problem with that. I said, I ain't going to sit down if you're going to challenge me, son, because this ain't going to go down like that. You can win the game, but you ain't going to do that to me. You better throw something else other than that number one, because that's not going to happen. But I have respect for that because I knew the situation. They both knew the situation. And they said, Barry, name it. And so technique for me was very important at that moment because I knew what was going to happen and I sensed it. And so I could have swung out of my butt and popped it up or jammed myself or anything. I know Percival throws like 97, 98 miles an hour. I know Gagne throws 102 miles an hour. Now it's like, okay, don't get too antsy. They threw a cookie at you. What does most people do? You're going to throw a cookie. I'm going to be like, ah, and then I'm going to jam myself. They threw the cookie at me. I just wanted to hit it. And the ball just went based on their power. It did not go. I had no miracle swing out of this or anything else. I just took the bat and said, boom, you're going to throw it? Bam. And I just hit it. Their power generated the distance of the baseball. It had nothing to do with me.
I think I had a little to do with you, Barry.
Well, I made contact. Yeah.
I made contact off of Gagne too, and I hit a line drive base hit. But again, Barry, I guess you're extremely humble. Your technique obviously is better than anybody I've ever seen. So give yourself a little credit because you were on time perfectly. And I just remember that World Series for Tim Salmon to say that's the furthest ball he's ever seen hit. Because, Salmon, he's seen it just about all in his 20-year career. That's saying something.
The best one was off of K-Rod. That's the best story. Because when we were in the World Series, Peter Gammons was I think we lost to Anaheim. I hit a bullet to first base in that series off of K-Rod when he came, when a young K-Rod came in. And they were typing him up to all of this stuff. And Peter Gammons came up to me and goes, man, what do you think of K-Rod? He's da-da-da-da-da-da. And I almost took it as an insult to me going, bro, I'm like doing all this, like, who am I? And so I told Peter Gammons, I said, I'm going to tell you something, Peter. I see this kid next time. I'm going to hit this ball so damn far. You're going to apologize to me. And I just faced that kid in Anaheim, and I put that ball in the cloud. Mm-hmm. I went out to left field, and they had the guys, all the announcers out there in the field, and they're little under little tent. And I looked at Peter Gammons, and I said, "Don't ever challenge me again." And he should know. He'll know that story because I told him, and I said, "I got respect for that kid. K-Rod was really good, dominating." But I was just like, okay.
Hey, Steven, he took it personal. That
was the only one about it took personal with Peter. I didn't have anything personally against K-Rod. He was nasty. And I knew he was nasty. But Peter challenged me. He took me to another level in my head and said, I was like, no, Peter, don't go there. I mean, that's like insulting to me.
It's amazing. We're talking about hitting. And obviously, you're the best home run hitter that has ever lived. Incredible player. But kids need to know that you are a complete ball player. You're one of the best stolen base threats of all time. Incredible defender in the outfield. Accurate, strong arm. Talk about your all-around game. Because I remember I played with Ken Griffey Jr. in Cincinnati. And he didn't want to be known as a home run hitter. And it's amazing the greats like yourself and Junior, you guys want to be known as a complete player because that's exactly what you guys were.
Well, that's what my godfather was. That was my father. There's a 5 tool and there was a 6 tool, and that was this. And it was how good you can make this. Because we already had the tools. We were gifted as, like I say, you're born to that, right? A little bit. And, it's not like, I'm better than, I thought Vladimir Guerrero was the best talented athlete I ever seen as far as throwing a ball, running as fast as he did, and swinging, physique and body, but there was things he chased that I didn't chase, it was a little thinking process but, I wanted to be like my godfather, Willie. That was the only dream I ever had since I was 5 years old. Since I was a baby, was to have his approval of me as a baseball player. And taking a lot of walks and, like you said, and stealing, that was part of the game. And, like I try to tell people, I wasn't like the best off the field person. When it came off the field, I was loner to myself. I didn't really hang out with anybody. I wasn't, like all da-da-da-da-da in the clubhouse, whatever else. But on the field, I was the best teammate you could ever have because I played the game the way you wanted it to be played. I took walks. I could have swung at a lot of pitches and not gave Bobby Bow or Kent or whoever else behind me a chance to swing the bat, but that's not how the game's supposed to be played. I took the walks. I steal second to get on base and score a run. The name of the game is to score more runs than your opposition, right? And your time will come. If you don't take walks as a hitter, you're going to dig a hole. Your body can only maintain that for so long. You're going to fatigue. You're going to get tired. And so if you don't take the walks and change the mindset of doing other things and then come back to that, you're going to get you're going to go like this too much. And as a hitter, you're always going to ride that roller coaster, that slump roller coaster, I call it. It's those that realize this slump is coming. We all know that. I only panicked when I was hitting good because that window's like this. That slump is like this. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to just minimize that slump, right? That little guy right here, the one that's going to irritate me and frustrate me the most. And so that was the name of the game. It was just like, how do I control this guy? This guy was cocky. This guy's head was this. This guy felt like he was invincible. But that window was this big. Been there, done that. But this guy right here is the one that makes you want to jump off the bridge and wonder why you're playing and what's going on. And all
Barry, I know that guy all too well. Trust me, I know that guy.
Hey, Jerry, let's talk about this off the field guy, because I'm going to tell you a story, Jerry. I'm going to try to keep it brief because I know we have other things to talk about and Barry probably needs to go soon. But this is about the off the field guy. I was playing baseball at UC Riverside. I got my scholarship and I, full ride, got my books paid for and everything. And that was a humble brag just to let everybody know that I played college baseball on a full ride scholarship, Jerry.
Thank you.
But I went into the bookstore and I got my books for the first semester and I put my check down on the counter, and the lady behind the desk says, "Hey, you must be on the basketball team." I said, No, I'm on the baseball team. She said, "Oh, wow. They got a black boy on the baseball team?" And I was like, yes, ma'am, they do. She's like, "Oh, you must be pretty good." I'm like, "Well, I think so." She says, "Well, my grandson plays baseball." And I said, "Oh, really? Professionally or college?" She said, "No, professionally." I said, "Oh, what's his name?" She said, "Barry." I said, "Barry Bonds?" She said, "Yeah, do you know him?" I said, "Well, yeah, I know him. He's the reason I wear number 24. Because he was with Pittsburgh at the time. And she said, "Well, maybe one day I'll connect you guys and you can meet him." And I was like, "I would love that." Fast forward, she connected us. He gave me a call and invited me down to his home to come work out before my first spring training. All through that off season before spring training, I would drive down to his house. We would lift weights. We would play catch in his front yard, and then we would drive to the batting cages. Right before my flight, maybe 3 days before my flight to West Palm Beach for spring training for the first time, a giant box shows up from Nike. And I'm like, "What is this?" And I open the box and there's a card inside. It says, "Steven, good luck in your first spring training. You're ready. Your friend, Barry Bonds." And it was all shoes and batting gloves and all kinds of stuff from Nike. This is the guy is off the field. This is the guy who took time to take a college guy under his wing, teach me things that I didn't even learn in college. And I was a team leader in hitting in college, back-to-back seasons. And he taught me so much that prepared me for professional baseball, and then sent me a gift when he had his own spring training to worry about. That's the guy that we're talking about now. So, Barry, I want to give you your flowers now about that. That was one of the greatest things of my life. I truly appreciated you for that, and I'll never forget that. I'll never forget you for that. And, testimony to the guy that he is. We're still friends 25 years later. So thank you, Barry, for that. And
Steven just don't understand that I was under pressure with my grandma.
You were what?
I said Steven didn't know that I was under pressure with my grandmother.
Oh, well, hey, whatever it was, I'm cool with it. I got a chance to.
"Boy, you better take care of that boy right there." I said, "I got you, Mama. It's okay. I got it."
Yeah, it was amazing.
We've been friends ever since, too. I mean, we've been friends our whole life. I mean, from the day we met.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's testimony to who we are. It's good.
Who gets who on the golf course? Who gets who on the golf course?
We've only played once or twice, I think. I went to his tournament, played once, and I don't know if we played somewhere else though, but he's pretty good. I don't really play golf that often, so I'd have to say Steven will beat me.
But he hits the golf ball as far as anybody you've ever seen, and it sounds
I've
like
seen
he's
it.
hitting a baseball bat. Now, listen, one thing I have to say, with all the numbers that I rattled up, and Barry, after I say this, if you want to pass on this, you let me know, but let me say this. With all the numbers that I rattled off at the top of this show, anybody who knows anything about sports or baseball in particular would say that any Hall of Fame that doesn't have that man in it is a joke. It's a travesty. It is revisionist history. Is similar to what people do when they eliminate certain parts of history from our history books that we give our children to placate and satisfy some groups of people. I want to know if what's going on with the Hall of Fame and all of that with you bothers you at all, like it bothers me, or are you so secure in who you were as a player that you know that, okay, this is not about me as a player and my skill level or my numbers. This is about the popularity with me amongst writers, and that be that as it may. If you don't want to answer that, pass
No,
on
I
it.
have
If
no.
you do,
Like I say, Steve, I have nothing to hide. It's a little bit of both. Okay, so honestly, it's a little bit of both. Yeah, does it bother you? Sure, I'm human. I'm not, I'm not some wall sitting over here. Don't care. Sure, it bothers. It bothers you, but at the same time, I also don't know who I am. And the thing is that people have to understand something. Is that the fact of is that I was vindicated. I went to the court. I was in federal court, and I won my case, 100%. Where is the vindication of me and my own sport? That's what bothers me. Not so much whatever. I mean, obviously they don't like me. That's fine. Okay, we don't like each other. I love you now. I mean, we don't like each other at the time. It's fine. I'm a lot older, mature, more better for it now than I was back then. But when you go to court, what's the court says? Is the media our judge and jury, or is true facts of what goes on in one's life? I was vindicated. I was convicted of obstruction of justice of a sentence that was overturned, not for anything else, a sentence. Rambling is what they called it. And I appealed that charge and I won. I'm not under federal. I'm not a criminal of any kind. I'm not anything. Major League Baseball, the records are still there. And I try to tell everybody this. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. And I don't care if they want to judge athletes on performance enhancing drugs or not. It doesn't matter. Major League Baseball, and let's get this clearly and straight, had a rule and has rules. Okay? Whether they were broken or not broken, there were rules, some rules. My era, there was no rules. In the era they changed the rules in 2003 or 2004, whenever the rules started to change, there was rules. There are some people that were convicted of those rules during the case of those rules. Well, Major League Baseball said if you did X, you were suspended for X, right? The athlete was suspended for X. That means he missed time in baseball. He was punished for that. His numbers still are the same based on what he's accomplished. That does not prevent him from the other part of for getting into the Hall of Fame. It has nothing to do with it. If Major League Baseball has punished you for whatever mistakes you made, whether you hit a pitcher, hit a person, you missed 5 games, or with performance enhancing drugs, you missed 50 games, or whatever that is, Major League Baseball already punished you for those stints. Why is Hall of Fame punishing you? Doesn't make sense. It makes 0 sense that you're being double punished for something that you've already been punished for.
Yeah, and there are a lot of guys in the hall that have had questionable things on their resumes as well. Some spitballers, other guys who have been accused of taking performance enhancing drugs and that kind of thing. So I really appreciate you answering that as honestly as you did, and you know I love you, man, and I would never want to put you in a position to say anything you didn't want to say, but I'm glad that you did, because it's bothered me for a long time. I'm sure that you see every time that it comes around and I post something about it. You know, I speak my mind. I've been on Sports Illustrated TV talking about it. I've been on ESPN talking about it. It really bothers me. I really think that, you know, the numbers speak for themselves. The numbers that you put up in Pittsburgh before any of that was an accusation would have gotten you into the Hall of Fame 95% of the time anyway. So
it's not over, Steve. Let's not say it's over. There every 3 years it comes up. There is a possibility. And I belong with my teammates in that Hall of Fame for 100%. And I'm not going to jade it out. I'm not going to sit there and say the dream is still there as long as there is a ballot for it. It could happen when I'm it can happen when I'm 60, it can happen when I'm 70, it can happen whenever. Hopefully, you don't have to wait that long, or hopefully I'm not dead. The things that bother me the most about these things is, as far as being an African American, my heroes, my Black brothers that came through the game are all gone. They're all not here. I don't get to stand with them. The people that were my mentors. Willie's
right,
old,
right.
McCovey's gone, Joe Morgan's gone. I can go on and on with all the people that are gone. Frank Robinson gone. There's a lot of my idols that are not there. I hope my mom is still around if it does happen. I don't know. My mom could be dead. It could never happen. If it never happens, it never happens. But in the scheme of it, I'm going to believe that at some point it will happen. And I'll be able to say thank you to my African American brothers that were before my time, that came up and mentored me and gave me a path to Major League Baseball. I can say thank you to.
Yeah, well, I truly hope that happens, and it's, obviously it goes without saying that it's deserved. The last thing I want to ask you about on a lighter note is the fact that you have really gotten into a lot of stuff in your retirement. You're big into cycling and camping now. How did you get into the cycling thing? And I think you told me you cycle like 50 miles a day or something like that.
I cycle about 30. Yeah, it's an average of 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours. Yeah, a lot.
Wow.
Camping was by accident because I put my foot in my mouth. But I love it. I love that. But cycling it gave me to be able to train in space. Baseball, your knees are beat up, your body's beat up, but I like to train. I don't care. I'm in my gym every day to this day. I'm on my tonal. I got a tonal. I'm in my gyms working out all the time. I ride a bike, but that's who you are. I can't explain to people, and I try very hard. That is who I am. I'd rather be in the gym and out on my bike with people and training than anything else in my life. It's just who I am. I enjoy it. I have a passion for it. It's hard to explain, but camping was just, I fell into that over COVID. A friend of mine, Daniel, gave me a little checklist. I was so negative, like, oh, camping, that's the Four Seasons, over big head me going, I'd stay at I'll be at the Marriott. I'm not staying out on the ground. And I'll tell you this story because it's really, really funny, because he told me, he said, if I could check off all your negative boxes without you saying a word, the only thing you can do is say check, will you go camping? I said, if you can check off my box, I'll buy a truck and I'm going. And my word's bond. If I say that, you bet baseball, you got to keep it, right? So he says, tell me this. He says, have you ever gone to the bathroom outside in your lifetime? Check. He says, have you ever had to take a shower or anything, rinse off or anything outside? Check. He said, have you ever had a barbecue grilled or anything outside? I said, check. He said, And I'm thinking there's something in here. He can't get this one. He's never going to get this one. Just to make it short, at the very end of it, he says, "Hey, Barry, have you ever been in a hotel or motel that was just so bad you couldn't take it and you left?" I said, "Check." He says, "If you don't like it, son, drive away." And I was like, "Hey, I'm screwed. I gotta go." So he checked off all that negative box in my head, and I couldn't believe he got it because I was thinking, "Oh no, I ain't sleeping on no ground." He said, "Have you ever, you slept in a tent with your, friends outside, sleepovers?" "Yeah, sleeping bag, yeah, all this stuff." So I did it. I loved it. It was amazing. I never seen anything, places that, waterfalls that are coming that you couldn't get there unless you drove. And I met some really good, fun people that I would have never met in my entire lifetime if I didn't dive in. And so it's been a great experience. I love it. I have my Bronco Raptor all laid out and my tent and have fun.
At first,
Barry,
it was
I would love to
Land
see
Rover
you
Discovery.
I would love to see you with a headband. You know what I'm saying, with the Rambo knife, going out hunting, spear fishing, and
I
and
hunt.
hunting
My
a
animals
boar.
are right there. My hunting animals are on my wall. I hunt. That's no secret. I've been to Africa. I got a bunch of animals from hunting. I bow hunt, and I got to thank Ryan Klesko for that because Ryan Klesko was when he got me into hunting. He took me to his house to go skeet shooting one time, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." And I went over there. He said you could do it, and we went hunting. And Ryan Klesko was the one who took me my first hunt, and ever since then I've been hooked.
That's crazy. Ryan told me in spring training when I was with the Braves, he was with the Braves. I said, "Hey, man, give me some advice as a hitter." He said, "Swing hard in case you hit it."
Yeah, that's Ryan. That's Rhino too. He
That's
does
right.
that all the time because he used to swing hard and just go. I said, "Dude, just close your eyes. You ain't hitting nothing." He's a good man. He's a really good, he's a good dude. I love Klesko. That's my boy.
I lost to Klesko in your tournament, Barry. You had that poker tournament in spring training. I think it was 2005 or 6.
Yeah, yeah.
Klesko got me on the poker table.
Yeah. That's when all of us thought we were poker kings. We sucked.
Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you doing this, man. Like I said, you've done a lot for me in life, and this is just another, thing on my tab of things that I owe you for, man. I really appreciate you being here, and this was a
You
great
froze.
conversation.
He froze.
He did freeze. I'll piggyback off of Steven because he's frozen right now. He's got that model look. He thinks he's a model. He thinks he's so beautiful. Barry, hey, on behalf of us, man, we want to thank you for coming on. Listen, I played against a lot of great players. You by far are the best player I've ever seen. You and Ken Griffey Jr. Player, not home run hitter, player. Right. You could do it all. So
great. Junior is very special. That kid did get hurt. It would be probably unbelievable what everyone would have seen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. Barry. Hey, man, I want to thank you. And on behalf of Stephen Bishop, Barry Bonds, this is Jerry Hairston Jr. for Hollywood Swingin'.